All right, so let's go ahead and continue on with the further practice here. The first two questions, again, are asking us to graph the slope-intercept form of equation. And we've got y equals 3/2 x minus 6. All right, so again, we look at that b number that's at the end when it's written in form, and that's going to tell me where my graph goes over the y-axis at. Well, since it says minus 6, that means this graph is going to go over the y-axis here at -6. So I'm going to put a dot on the y-axis at -6. Then I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my slope. My slope here is 3/2. Well, slope of 3/2 means I'm going to rise 3 and run 2. So from this point I just made, I'm going to go 3 units up and then 2 units over. If it was negative, I would go down, but I'd always end up going to the right. So again, from this point I just made, I'm not resetting myself to the origin. From this point I just made, I'm going to go 3 up and 2 over, since the slope is 3/2. Again, the slope is always right after the equal sign when it's written in form. I connect my points, and there's the graph of my line. On the right side there, I've got y equals -7/2 x plus 1. So again, I'm going to go ahead and start and plot the b number. Now at the end here, it says plus 1. So I'm going to put a dot on the y-axis at 1. Then I'm going to go ahead and look at my slope. My slope here is -7/2. A slope of -7/2 means I'm going to rise -7 units, which actually means I'm going to have to go down 7 units, because that's the way I could rise -7. And then I'm going to run 2, which means I'm going to go to the right 2. Again, we're always going to go to the right. So from the point I just made, which is here at 1, I'm going to make 7 jumps down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 2 jumps to the right, 1, 2. And where I land is my other point. I connect my points, and there's the graph of y equals -7/2 x plus 1. We can also look at the slopes for a little bit of affirmation here. Look, here in this one, 3/2, the slope is positive. The line points up from left to right. It has to. Any positive slope points up from left to right, as you know. Here, the slope, -7/2, well, that's negative. That means the line has to point down going from left to right. And indeed, this graph does point down going from left to right. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the concluding examples here, where they're asking me to write the equation of the line being shown. All right, so we're writing these in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b form. And again, as you saw early on in the introduction, there's two things that are going to change into numbers, m and b. M represents the slope, b represents the y-intercept. So we can go ahead and get ourselves set up, because y and x are always going to be there. It's just a matter of what else is going to be there with those guys. So as the directions said earlier, we're going to go ahead and first identify where the graph crosses over the y-axis. The what is the y-intercept? That's the b value. So if we look at this one, all right, this one crosses over the y-axis here at -4. So the b value here is going to change into -4. Then I'm going to go ahead and find the slope, because the slope is what goes here. And again, my slope is my rise and my run to get to my other point. Again, we're always going to work left to right here. So I'm finding the rise and the run to get me from this point over to this point. Well, to go from this point over to this point, I have to go 1 jump up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps over. So the slope there is 1/5. So the equation of the line is y equals 1/5 x plus -4. All right, as we go ahead and take a look at the one on the right here, start off again, identify the y-intercept, where the graph crosses over the y-axis. Well, this one crosses over the y-axis right here at 8. So I'm going to change the b value here into 8. Then I'm going to go ahead and find the slope. Again, we always work from left to right. We're finding the rise, how much I move up, or negative if it's down, up or down, and then how much I'm moving to the right. Well, to get from this point to this point that are labeled on the graph, I make 1, 2 jumps down, and then 1, 2, 3 jumps over. So it's -2/3, and that means this line is the equation y equals -2/3 x plus 8.